Who doesn't love a good party? You know, and one of the things that sets a great party apart, in addition to the people that you're with, is what they're serving. You know, I love when it's just like the heavy hors d'oeuvres and I go to town and it's like I'm eating like there's no tomorrow. But what can break a party is when there's just not enough for everybody. Our story today comes from John chapter 2, and Jesus is at a party. He's at a wedding celebration, and these weddings weren't like weddings today that are like a 2-day event with a rehearsal and a ceremony. This is like a week-long celebration. And so when families are responsible for hosting these parties, it's a really big deal. So at this party that Jesus is at this wedding reception, as they're celebrating the coming together of these two people who've made vows in front of God, they start to run out of everyone's favorite thing at this party. They start to run out of wine. Now, Jesus' mother, Mary, she recognized what was going on, and she comes to Jesus, and Jesus is like, well, that's not really my problem. And Mary lovingly turns to the servants at the party and tells the servants, do whatever Jesus tells you. Everything else hinges on the fact that these servants listen to Jesus' mother. And they follow Jesus' orders. As far as we know, Jesus was just a guest at this party. So it might sound a little strange for a wedding guest to start ordering the servants around. But they do it anyway. And their desperation is revealed in how they follow Jesus' instructions. Nearby were these 6 stone water jars that were used for their ritual cleansing as a part of their religion, similar to what we would call our baptism. And these large stone jars would hold 20 to 30 gallons. Now, a gallon of water is about 8 pounds. So these jars, in addition to the weight of the stone, would be extremely heavy, and one person probably couldn't tote one of these jars around on their own. So what Jesus was asking them to do was going to be a really big chore. Jesus asked them to fill all of these big stone jars with water. And they do, and you can tell they're excited because of the details that John, the gospel writer, puts in here. He says that they filled them to the brim, to the point that they were overflowing. And somebody who's not real sure about what they're doing probably wouldn't go to that length to fill all of these jars to the point of overflowing. But they do. They do what Jesus asked. And then Jesus asked them to do one more thing. He says, now draw the water out of these jars and serve it to the guests. And the water had become wine. Here's a strange thing about the story. If Jesus was going to turn water into wine, why not just use the water from the source? Why put the servants through the hassle of filling all 6 of these stone jars with 20 to 30 gallons each? That sounds like a tremendous responsibility on top of an already anxious time. And then ask them to serve the water out of these jars. Doesn't that sound like extra work? None of us like to do extra work when there's already a problem. I would be feeling really anxious and wound up and not sure what in the world we're doing, but they do it anyway. We don't see whether or not they complain about it. They just do it. And everything changes, not just the wine, because these servants just did what Jesus asked. And I think that's our invitation today. Things change in our lives when we just do what Jesus asks. We get to be a part of God's ongoing work in the world today, to be participants in the inbreaking of God's kingdom, this new way of living that's characterized by love and joy and peace. Now, who wouldn't want to be a part of that kind of living, of this kind of world where we just love more like Jesus? And what changes in addition to the water that day is the attitudes of Jesus' disciples. He had already called some disciples to follow him, but it says when they saw what happened as a result of these servants filling the jars and listening to Jesus and drawing the water, it says that they could see Jesus' glory and they put their trust in him. The disciples were changed as a result of what happened. The point of the story may not be about what Jesus can do with water when we've run out of wine. It's more about the faithful response of the servants to do what Jesus asked, as tedious as it may sound, and witness the transformation that comes from our simple acts of obedience. And so I wonder in your life today if maybe there's something that you know Jesus wants you to do. And maybe you've been putting it off, and maybe you've been second guessing whether this really sounds like the right thing to do right now, but you know God wants you to do it. This is your chance to be a part of God's transformation in the world today. To do what Jesus asks, like these servants at the party. Who knows how the world may change because you follow Jesus. So I hope that our time together was meaningful for you today. I can't wait to hear how the rest of your week goes because of this story about these servants at the wedding. If you would, take some time to follow us, like the video, comment to let us know what about it really helped you. And if there's somebody else in your life who might benefit from our time together, would you just share it with them and let them know that you were thinking about them? And then, it won't hurt to say a little prayer for that person. Take care, and I'll see you next time.